Welcome to Escape Room Reviews, I'm Zach, and today we're going to be talking about The Basement, live escape room experience in Los Angeles, California. Now this video will probably be a little bit longer because I'm going to be talking about my experience with all 4 games at The Basement, as well as their Dead and Breakfast program. So strap in, get some popcorn, and get ready to be kidnapped and tested by a psychotic serial killer in this escape room review. The Basement currently has 4 games spanning an interconnected story of escaping the Tandy Manor and its psychopathic occupant. Chapter 1, The Basement. Chapter 2, The Elevator Shaft. Chapter 3, The Study. And Chapter 4, The Courtyard. Now, all games in the regular version are 45 minutes long, though with Dead and Breakfast, you do have 90 minutes per to escape each experience. Alright, so let's discuss the location of The Basement before we get into all of the actual rooms. The location is kind of hidden away. There's like this gate you have to get through and all that. There's decent amount of parking, and like every other game I did play in LA, you did have to be buzzed into the lobby first. Now, on the topic of the lobby itself is kind of boring. It's all painted black. It's got TV screens of the different games, and then kind of a gift shop of, posters and shirts or whatever. But what is kind of fun is the interconnected hallway staging zone they have for all the games. That one was really cool. It's a nice big open space, shows off all the doors to the game, each obviously in theme. And then just down the hall of that was their party room, which is nice and big and has plenty of entertainment, ping pong, stuff like that. All right, so let's start talking about the individual rooms. Starting, of course, with Chapter 1, The Basement. Set design-wise, great, very gory, mildewy, it's a serial killer's basement. There's not a whole lot you have to do to make it impressive, but they did a good job overall. Puzzle-wise, I think that's really where this room struggles. It shows its age a lot. The puzzles, none of them felt unique, none of them felt interesting, they all felt very Gen 1. The room definitely suffered a lot from both being a highly linear room and a highly search puzzle oriented room where you can't progress until you find this one specific object hiding in this one specific stuffed animal that you would have never picked for any reason. The game also definitely struggles with a live actor problem. I've done plenty of other live actor rooms, Weeping Witch in Anaheim, Arctic Storm and Neighborhood Watch in Orlando, and those use those actors great. But The Basement as a whole, for the whole place, and especially Chapter 1, I feel like struggles with them a lot because they're trying to play both GM and actor. So in the case of our actor, we freed them about 20 minutes into the game, which, as I mentioned, the game's very linear. So I spent those first 20 minutes making small talk or staring at the static on a TV screen because there was nothing better to do. And then we spent the next 25 minutes just following the actor around as they very not so subtly was like, I think I remember him saying there's something over here, and I think we should look over here. No, we don't want to do that yet, basically doing the game for us, which is annoying in and of itself because forced clues are never that fun, especially if the GM's rushing you with them. But to pay for Dead and Breakfast and have 90 minutes per game and then escape with 49 minutes on the clock, that stings. So it's hard for me to recommend The Basement specifically as Chapter 1, especially with a group of 6, 4 tops. Alrighty, so after having escaped Tandy's basement, still on the bottom floor of his manor, we find ourselves in his elevator shaft, underneath the giant elevator that he has been using as an overglorified meat tenderizer. Now, the set of this room is very, very well done. It's kind of a small space, but it lends itself to that, it makes sense. And it's very mildewy, it's very rusty, it feels like an old, decrepit elevator shaft. Unfortunately, the biggest sting against set design is the end-all be-all effect of the room, the ceiling, that's also, the bottom of the elevator meat tenderizer, is supposed to move. It's supposed to actually come down and start quote-unquote crushing you. It was not working when we played, and apparently after talking to GMs, has not been working for a while, which really sucks because my boss played it back when it was working, and said it was a standout feature that he's still yet to see in any other escape room since. Puzzle-wise, room was great. It didn't have too many puzzles, but they all made sense. They were all on theme. It felt like you were fixing an elevator or short-circuiting this, or you know, you gotta mess with the water pressure, so then the water actually like comes up through the floor, which was a really cool effect. Just all in all, really, really good puzzle design. As far as a clue system goes, this game did not have a live actor. It's the only one at the basement that doesn't, and I think that's part of why it's my favorite one there. But so instead of the live actor giving you clues, Tandy himself did, which was probably the only thing in this room that did not make any sense, because why would the psychotic serial killer help you get out? But ignoring that, the room itself was phenomenal. Definitely the one I recommend the most at the basement, though watch your player count. On their website, it says 2 to 4. In person, it says 2 to 6. We did 3. I would say 3 is absolutely perfect. Every puzzle is designed beautifully for 3 people exactly in mind. So that's my recommendation for that game. All right, so after narrowly escaping being crushed to death by Tandy's elevator / meat tenderizer, we find ourselves upstairs in his study / his mom's room. Not sure why they're connected, but they were. Anyway, the set design of the room was definitely the weakest at the basement. It wasn't anything awful, just nothing really stood out as impressive. The game also showed clear signs of like aging and wear and tear. There was clear puzzles that had been removed but not covered up. Like you could clearly see, oh, there used to be a picture frame here because the wall is a different color. And you know, we've got these wooden idols and wooden pedestals, but they don't actually go together anymore. They don't do anything. So that was kind of annoying. On the topic of puzzles, they felt recycled. They felt meh. There was one cool one where we actually do involve the live actor. And on the topic of the live actor, she played a blind maid who, you know, is involved in this one singular puzzle where she will only talk with Miss Tandy, which was a really cool puzzle. But otherwise, she's supposed to just wander the room blindly and clean or whatever, you know. What made this a problem was she didn't really fulfill that role correctly. At times, she did things such as one of us put a key in a hole, twisted it, and didn't open. And I don't know why it didn't open or whatever it was, but we were like, oh well. It wasn't a super linear room, so we would have come back to it at some point, you know? But instead, she walked over, opened it, and then like handed the reward to someone as if she knew they were there, which she shouldn't have because she's blind. There was another time where they gave us plenty of keys. They gave you way too many keys in that game. But only one of them would fit this one specific lock that was down a little crawl space hole that one of my coworkers got down. We were getting there of giving him the key. It wasn't our like main priority, so we were gonna circle back to it eventually. But instead she stumbled her way over to the bed, picked up the exact key out of the pile, and then dropped it down the hole like on top of my coworker, which was like, why are you bothering? And then to add on to that, we had 12 minutes left in a normal 45-minute game, so 57 minutes total. It was like, the GMs really need to learn that if someone's gonna book the dead and breakfast, don't push them. Or hell, just don't push them at all. Even if we didn't have 90 minutes on the clock, we still had 12 minutes left on a regular clock. So that was very annoying for this room, and it's probably why it's my 3rd place overall. The actor didn't do as bad as the basement. The set wasn't as good as the basement, but the puzzles were a little better, so it's hard to recommend it, but it's not the worst room there. After escaping Tandy's study, you find yourself in his courtyard on your way out to escape. Well, technically first you find yourself in the groundskeeper's house, but that's besides the point. Set-wise, this room was phenomenal. I mean, it was definitely the best set at the basement. Overall, this game ranks as my 2nd favorite, but set-wise, absolute favorite. The outside bits felt so real. The inside bits all felt genuine. The little camper was like, it was a genuine camper, you know? So set-wise, phenomenal work. Puzzles wise, some really good stuff. This room was a lot more non-linear than the others, which was nice because it was, you have a group of 6, so we were actually able to split up and do things for once. There was a couple puzzles that were repetitive and like a little too simple, but conversely there were some really cool puzzles that like actually involved the live actor. And on the topic of the live actor, despite having arguably a bigger story role in this game, she played a lot smaller of a GM role, which was nice because she couldn't really push us much due to her, let's just say, predicament. And you're rid of her within the first 20 minutes or so of the room. With that being said, we did have 16 minutes left on, 16 minutes left of a 45-minute clock, or whatever, 61 minutes on the regular clock. So it was a very easy room, and the basement themselves do describe it as easy, but it was definitely my second favorite overall, and if you were to do another one other than the elevator shaft, I would recommend that one for around 4 to 6 players. Okay, so now that we're done talking about the specific rooms at the basement, let's talk about the pricing and things like that as a whole. Monday to Thursday, all games at the basement are $38 per person. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they are $42 a person. Dead and breakfast comes out at about $50 a person a room, as it's a $200 flat charge for all 4 games, plus the party room. Add an extra $8 to $12 an hour, or a game, I guess. I can't fully recommend Dead and Breakfast. I mean, the party room's cool, don't get me wrong. It's large, as I mentioned earlier, and it's got ping pong, and it's got Nintendo Switch, and skee ball, and muffins and stuff they provide for you, which is great. But unless you have a really, really big group where you're going to need to split up multiple times, there's really no need. I mean, you only spend this much time in the party room, whereas you spend all the rest of your time, in the actual games. Now, if you couldn't tell from all of the stories and lore and intros, the games are not family friendly, right? I mean, they have a different level of scare, but they're all a little bit spooky. I think the elevator's the least scary, and the study's probably the most, as it actually has moments of isolation and pure dark and stuff like that. But, I wouldn't recommend families for them. I would say you could bring beginners here. We were all escape room enthusiasts. Like I said, we worked there. So, we killed the rooms, but I could see beginners and some enthusiasts having a good time overall in them. As far as difficulty goes, they rate all of their games as a 4 out of 5, with the exception of the Courtyard, which is ranked as 3 out of 5 for whatever reason. Within player count, everything says 2 to 8, except for the Courtyard says 1 to 8, and the elevator shaft says 2 to 4, unless you're in person, in which case it says 2 to 6 for whatever reason. But genuinely speaking, 3 to 4 is a good number for basically all of their games, as is fairly standard for most escape rooms, to be fair. But I think, any group over like 5 is definitely pushing it in basically all of the games. As far as final thoughts go, as you probably heard throughout the review, it's hard for me to honestly, genuinely recommend all of the basement as a cumulative thing. It's a very mixed bag. You've got, on this side, you've got the Courtyard and the elevator shaft, which are fantastic rooms. And then on the other side, you've got the basement and the study, which really struggle. And all of them, except the elevator shaft, are hindered by the GMs more than likely being trained to push people through, which is fair if, you're in LA, you get a huge player count and, people just struggle with it. But if you're enthusiasts, it can really stifle that experience to have the GM just so pushy and almost less of an actor in the room and more of just a built-in like, hey, look over here, look over here, look over here, here's a key, So yes, I recommend them, but only if you're enthusiasts and are probably gonna go play anyway. If you're just looking for good games in LA, the elevator shaft's fantastic. Lab Rats was amazing. Weeping Witch in Anaheim, I know it's technically not LA, but they're close enough, was phenomenal. There's other better games, I think, that are more worth your time. With that being said, I've been Zach with Escape Room Reviews, and we'll see you in the next one.